You know, for the longest time, we've treated operational excellence as just getting better at fighting fires. But it's time to stop building better fire trucks and instead start designing fireproof buildings. And that, right there, is what operational readiness by design is all about.
Oh man, we've all been there, right? That horrible sound that jolts you out of a deep sleep. For most teams, what comes next is a really stressful, chaotic scramble. But you know what? It doesn't have to be that way.
So when that alert goes off, an incident can go down two very different paths. On one side, you have the familiar chaos, a storm of noisy alerts that leads to frantic guesswork and a lot of finger-pointing. But on the other side, you have a future where a single, actionable signal kicks off a clear, collaborative playbook.
So the big question is, how do we actually make that journey from the chaos side to the calm side? Well, it all begins by building the right foundation for our entire observability strategy, which is really just our ability to understand what's happening inside our systems by looking at them from the outside. And that foundation, it's built with something called service level objectives, or SLOs for short. This is such a crucial shift because it's where we stop guessing and we start to precisely define what reliability actually means for our users.
So what exactly is an SLO? Well, it's not about some internal metric like how much CPU you're using. No. It's an agreement on how reliable a system needs to be from the only perspective that truly matters, your users. It's all about measuring successful interactions, not just if a server is feeling healthy.
Making a really good SLO follows four pretty clear steps. First, you pick a critical user journey, something like a user successfully adding an item to their shopping cart. Second, you choose a service level indicator, or SLI, to measure it. Think of the SLI as the proof of success. Third, you set a realistic goal, like 99.9% of those cart additions have to succeed. And finally, that defines your error budget, which is just the small acceptable amount of unreliability you're willing to live with.
Okay, so once we have that SLO foundation in place, we can totally change the game for our alerting. We can finally create alerts that have a real purpose, alerts that trigger calm, confident action instead of just a ton of anxiety and noise.
This really is a fundamental shift. The old way of alerting on symptoms, like high memory usage, is just noisy and it doesn't have any business context. But the new, SLO-driven way, it only pings you when the user experience is genuinely at risk. In other words, when your error budget is burning way too fast.
All right, let's put this into practice. An SLO-based alert fires for an elevated API error rate. What happens next? The on-call engineer doesn't panic. Nope, they just open the playbook.
And here's what they see. A super simple table with 4 clear steps. It tells them exactly which dashboard to check, what logs to review, and who to get in touch with, like the on-call site reliability engineer or SRE. This just completely eliminates the guesswork. And this isn't just about being technically efficient. It's about the people. Reducing stress and the sheer mental load during an incident is one of the most powerful things you can do for your team's health and, frankly, their effectiveness. And here is the result. Just look at this timeline. The alert fires, and within a single minute, the runbook is already in motion. Collaboration kicks off just a few minutes after that, and the whole issue is mitigated in under 25 minutes. This is what designed readiness actually looks like. But here's the thing. A great plan is totally useless if you've never actually practiced it. We need to be proactively validating our entire response system before a real crisis hits. And that's where this concept of game days comes in.
So, what's a game day? Honestly, it's basically a fire drill for your production systems. It's a planned, controlled experiment where you simulate a failure, like a database going down or a network issue, just to see how your teams and your tools actually respond when they're under pressure.
So, why do this? Well, because this is how you find the flaws before your customers do. You confirm that your alerts are set up right. You discover that step 3 in your runbook is actually kind of confusing, and you build that cross-team muscle memory that's so critical for a real incident. And the impact? It can be absolutely staggering. Think about this. A potential 75% reduction in the time it takes to even detect an incident. That is the difference between a minor hiccup and a headline-making outage, all because you took the time to practice. Ultimately, all of these tools, SLOs, runbooks, game days, they're incredibly powerful, but they only work if they're supported by the most important system of all, your organizational culture. This right here is the fundamental mindset shift. You have to stop treating observability and readiness as some feature you bolt on at the end or a job that's just for the SRE team. It has to be a core design principle for every single person who's building the product. So, how do you make that happen? Well, you start by making observability part of your definition of done. You celebrate the engineer who prevents an outage, not just the one who swoops in to fix it. You share what you learn, and you make collaboration between teams the absolute default. So I'll just leave you with this. Take a hard look at your own systems and your processes. Are you still investing all your energy into building bigger, better fire trucks? Or are you ready to start designing a system that's fireproof right from the start?